Good morning, my brothers and sisters, and all my friends. This morning we are going to talk about what is soul. This had been a very big question with all the humanity, and especially the West could never understand the real meaning of soul, because the Western tradition of wisdom doesn't go that far as much as the Eastern tradition of wisdom goes. Because the Western tradition doesn't go far than the mind, beyond the mind. Or maybe it doesn't shoot, or it's not that important to go beyond the mind, because the material universe, the materialism, the whole civilization which is based on materialism or materialistic tendencies and attitudes, wouldn't like to go far than the mind. But the Eastern tradition goes beyond the mind to understand what is soul. And the soul is given a name, Atma. Atma, and God's name is Paramatma, the Supreme Soul. The Paramatma is Supreme Soul, and an individual soul is known as Atma, or we could say the localized consciousness, localized Eternal Memory Continuum is known as Atma, and the Supreme Universal non-local consciousness and the Eternal Memory Continuum is known as Paramatma. As it says in Bible so beautifully, the man is made in the image of God. So then that's not the mind only. We have to go beyond the mind to understand God, because when we try to understand the man who is made in the image of God, as it had been the tradition of not only the Eastern wisdom tradition, but even the Western, when it all started in Greek philosophy, and the Greek temple of Delphi has this great saying on the front door, know thyself. And that's a sacred mantra. Try to know the image of God. So we have to know the image of God. So we have to go beyond the mind, because the mind is not all. Mind doesn't tell us all about the image of God. So we have to discover, we have to investigate the micro God. And what is micro God? That's Atma, the soul. To know God, the Supreme Soul, Paramatma, we have to know the soul. Then we could know the real meaning of the image of God. So the man is made in the image of God. So that's our real station. That's where we are. And that's our evolutionary station. So we don't have to dream any fancy ideas, or we don't have to philosophize with big ideas, with fancy ideas, to describe it in a very funny manner or some exotic. It is just simple, natural phenomena of the life force. And the human station represents that image of God. We do have some examples in the material science. And the greatest example, which comes very near to the demonstration of what the soul is. And what is that? That experiment is superconductivity. If we run a current in a closed circuit coil, and if there is no resistance, if there is zero resistance for that current to flow through that wire, if there is a possibility, if we could do that, then the current will flow forever, for billions and billions of years, without stopping. And it will go beyond the age of this material universe, beyond the Big Bang, beyond 13 plus billion years. It will go beyond, and it will keep on going around without any loss. Now that's the point. Without any loss. So there is no loss of energy, and there is a perpetual continuum, eternal continuum of this current. If we could introduce the conditions, material conditions of that wire without any resistance, zero resistance, and of course cooling it to the lower temperatures. Now the phenomenon of superconductivity tells us the eternal continuum. And the soul is eternal memory continuum. If the soul is eternal memory continuum without the loss of any energy, so it is immortal. The wisdom tradition of ancient India declares it so well that the human soul is immortal. And the human soul doesn't participate in divisive actions or karma. What is divisive actions and karma? The divisive actions or separatism of karma are when we say, I am and others. So I have separated myself. I'm prescribing to my ego. So then where is the example in the material universe of egoless existence? Because egoless existence, if we could create the conditions in our mind, egoless, zero resistance, that's the point. That's the superconductivity. We are talking again in our mind. Zero resistance. Then our mind will behave like soul. And the example, material example of egoless existence is water. Is, as the Lao Tse, the great Chinese philosopher, used to pray, let me be the water. Let me be like the water. Other than water, all other material existence have their own ego. Why I say ego? Excuse me. Water has no ego. Water has no form, You put in any container, it takes its shape. No form, no taste, no color, no smell. What's this definition, by the way? This is egoless state. Let us recall that the human body has 80% of water, more than. And if we just include everything around, it is beyond 90%. So what we are the image of water. We are like water. That's our station. That's our evolutionary station of our mind. So our mind has to become egoless, means zero resistance. When we have the zero resistance, as it says so beautifully in the wisdom tradition of yoga, that we take away one by one all the seeds of the past karma, the sanskaras, the patterns. And that discipline of taking away these sanskaras, those seeds of past karma, and burning them forever so they don't grow again. And those are the patterns we have established through karma. Because if we do any action 3 times, we know that there is a biological clock set in our body and our mind, and it will remind us 4th time that here is the time for the cup of tea. If we repeat any action 3 times, so it becomes a pattern. So every karma, excuse me, every karma creates a pattern. And in yoga, it's known as vritti. Vritti is pattern, a circular pattern. It goes on in circles. So we have to take all those seeds away of these patterns from our mind and take away and burn those seeds and make it zero resistance by practicing total renunciation and not saying what is good and what is bad, becoming neutral, becoming non-partition, not participating even. But it doesn't mean that you become inactive. No, you are very dynamic, you are taking part, but as an observer, as water, as the soul. The Eternal Memory Continuum, the soul. And the character of the soul, the image, is very well described through the material existence of water, the characteristics, egoless. So that must be the quest of every human being, to become like water. If we want to see the truth as it is. Satyat nasti pro dharma. There is no religion greater than the truth. And when we see the truth as it is, then all the baggage of the past karma drops down. But we have to keep on the great resolution. What Rishi Trishnku says, "Oh my mind, you are so great, you can move the mountains, you can move the rivers, you can move the whole universe, you can shake the whole universe, but oh my mind, you become like Shiva. You must have the Shiv Sankalpa, because a man is made of the Sankalpa. Sankalpa mayovam purusaya. A man is made of the sankalpa, the resolution, the willpower. So Trishnku Rishi says, you become like Shiva. And what is Shiva? Shiva is universal welfare. That resolution of universal welfare. And what is universal welfare? Station. And that attitude is including everybody, living none outside the circle of compassion. And our eternal memory continuum knows it. The soul knows the Supreme Soul, because both have the same characters. So by knowing one, we can know the other one. So my friends and my brothers and sisters, I invite you to investigate the soul. And this is what the soul is. Thank you very much, and have a very, very beautiful day. And thank you very much for your patience.